It's a great question, but just let me recap before I go into this main and last piece. There are three things that you need within your system. Just three things. Anything more than that, it starts to get confusing. You need to have your pillars, you need to be positioned correctly, and you need to have a presence. Now, in regards to positioning and presence, those are in the eyes of those that you can serve. It doesn't matter if certain people don't like what you do. So remember, pillars, positioning, and presence. And to answer that question, what we're going to look at, or what I'm going to cover right now, is your signature transformation system as it relates to branding and everything that you do. So we're looking at pillars, and I'm going to use the example of your signature transformation system to talk about whether the name of your expert business service or product, it brands you or it burns you. Okay? Now, when people come across the name of your service or your product, let me ask you this. What immediately comes to mind? Now, mine, for instance, is the Quiet Experts, and the program is the Quiet Experts Implementation Program. But what about yours? If I saw the name of your service or your product that represents in your world, excuse me, that in your world is your client, your signature transformation system. Some people refer to this as a signature system or a signature solution, but for us, obviously, we refer to this as a signature transformation system. Okay, it is your dream client offer and blueprint. It is what you use, the steps that you deploy to take your ideal clients or customers from point A to point B. So when they come across the name of that service or product, what immediately comes to mind? One of the solutions to overcoming the feeling of not being comfortable that we discussed earlier, talking about what you do, is to make sure that the name or the title of your signature client transformation solution or your product that you use to help your clients get results is easy to understand. And I've seen some really weird ones out there that after the coach or consultant has explained it, it makes sense, but just seeing it, it doesn't. And that's why this topic of whether the name of your expert business, service or product brands or burns you is very, very important. So the title of your service, your solution, or your product, whichever you choose to call it, in essence, your brand representations should leave zero room for anyone, least of all your ideal prospects, to need a degree just to be able to figure out what it is exactly you do as an introvert, coaching, consulting, or service professional. All right? So now to the question you know that I was going to inevitably ask you on this call. On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate the title or name of your current signature client transformation service or product? And remember, it doesn't matter what you do, you solve problems for your ideal client, and you have a name for that product or service. On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate the title or name in terms of easy to understand and comprehend of your solution or your product? All right? Just type it in the box. Okay, I'm seeing a 2, seeing a 3. Oh, I've seen 2 5s, so type it in, let me just see. Okay. The average seems to be about 2, and that's because of the prior piece that we've explained and spoken about, that when your ideal client sees it, it's got to resonate with them. Quiet experts, as I said, it's because introverts are known as quiet professionals, quiet people, even outside of the world of business. So if you're at a 2, there are things you can do to get it to a 3 or a 4. I will talk about that later on. But let's talk about your signature client transformation system, or your signature system as it's often called in the world of coaching and coaching professionals. It's called by different names, okay? But essentially, it's your unique process that you developed and you use to help your ideal client or customer eliminate the problems they have that they don't want and get the results that they do want, but that they just don't have for whatever the reason. And it's got a title. It's got a name that captures its essence in words. And that's what we're referring to here. And remember, this is about making sure you have the right pillars within your business. And what are the pillars again? 1, knowing which skill Okay, you've taken out of your toolbox to solve which particular problem, and that should be an important enough problem for your clients. Pillars is also about knowing how to articulate what you do and pack it into one sentence that captures all your marketing and everything you do. And then it's also about having a solution and a visual representation of the steps needed to deliver through your signature client transformation system. So, how effective is the name of your product or your title right now in helping you convey exactly what it is? Because the more challenging and ambiguous it is, the harder you're making it for you to talk about what you do as a quiet expert online. And this is, folks, this is part of where the problem comes from. We know what we do, we know how it helps, but we don't put it together and present it in a way that doesn't confuse those that we want to serve. And that's because a lot of introvert entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, and other professionals are experts and brilliant at what they do, and we think differently from the way our clients think. In these digital times, of short attention spans and noise, brevity is important, and that's why we chose to focus on this piece this week on this particular call. Now, before we created the title Quiet Experts, we did a fair amount of research to nail it down to something that we felt would resonate with our target market based on two things: psychographics and demographics. So before we came up with that name, we looked at the psychographics, how our target market thinks, and demographics, the normal things like age, status, those who they follow, what products they use, and so on and so forth. And those were the two things we really focused on, because we knew that quiet introvert entrepreneurs who relate to the term quiet think in a certain way and they act and believe in certain ways. Okay, we didn't come up with the term quiet. It's been out there and it's been used, but in the context that we use it, and that what's out there that we follow, quiet refers to introverts. So here are some of the, let me just check this question. Do you have to? Well, yeah, there's psychographics, how people think. There's demographics, based on, associations and other things like that. And then there's geographics, which is where they may be geographically based within the world, which could also affect how they do what they do. I can tell you that introvert entrepreneurs, they're not very forthcoming in terms of being active, and I belong to a number of groups where there are introverts but not introvert entrepreneurs. So introverts will talk about things to do with introversion, being an introvert, but normally the topic of business from an introvert's standpoint isn't normally discussed, isn't normally a topic of discussion. And that's one of the reasons why obviously I pulled together the whole Quiet Experts brand for introvert entrepreneurs online, because we can't continue to go blindly forward thinking that we can mimic extroverts. You can't. It's not going to happen. That's a recipe for success. And interestingly enough, it's also one of the reasons why people struggle with a lot of the struggle, why they struggle to talk about what they do, because they're trying to do it the way they think they have to do it, like extroverts. But you're not an extrovert, so don't even try, because it's a waste of your time. Okay? There are other factors as well. Social media, how we use social media, personally and professionally, or should I say personally versus professionally. So all of these things are things that I took into consideration, and that comes down to the psychographics piece. Now, to answer the second bit of your question, why didn't I think of geographics? Well, that's because it doesn't really matter for our business where a person is based. For your business, that might be the case as a service professional, but for us, the two most important factors when it comes to figuring out the names for our products or titles for our products and services are psychographics and demographics. So the answer to the question is yes, consider geographics if you want to, but don't get bogged down unless it's absolutely necessary that you understand exactly where people are in terms of physical location in order for you to reach them with your marketing and other things. On social media, if you're involved in Facebook advertising, yes, it comes into it. But then normally we go for, and people normally go for the big areas like United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, France, and some other areas. So, but again, we'll talk about that in another session. So let's keep going. So, yes, I'm going to answer that right now. The questions that, what things you look at as criteria when you're thinking of naming your product or your service or your signature system. Here are some of the questions we asked in surveys and research that you can use to evaluate the title of your expert product service or even your content if you want your content to convert better. So you'll find these 7 questions hopefully very useful for breaking through the noise and naming what you do and who you are. So essentially your brand, and that's using the term brand very loosely. So there are seven questions. Number 1, if you were to approach someone to figure out whether the name for your signature system, service, product, or brand is a good fit, you need to ask them, question number 1, what do you think when you see this name? Okay. Number 2, does it remind you of anything? Number 3, can you easily pronounce it? Number 4, question number 4, when you see the name, do you want to know more? Number 5, what do you think the business with this name does? Number 6, what do you think the business with this name sells? And number 7, do you confuse the name with any other business names? So these are the 7 questions. You can listen to this again, but the 7 questions that will be very useful when it comes to naming your products and even your content, your products, your services, and even your content. And this is what we go through in our different lines of expert knowledge business when we're creating products, when we're creating services, and even when we're creating content. And it's important to remember that as you go through this process, whether you do it on SurveyMonkey or you do it in person or you ask in groups, you're not selling the name when you ask the questions I just gave you. So you don't want to, the last thing you want to do is force your thoughts onto people. You're trying to figure out, is the name of what I do, my solution, does it resonate? Because when it resonates, a lot of the heavy lifting will already have been done merely by just coming across the name of your service or your product. So you don't want to force your thoughts on people. What you're seeking is input. So let me just check. So if people give you answers that are unexpected or maybe undesired, it's not too late to get back to your drawing board. And I've had to do that more than a few times since I got started in this expert knowledge business. And I'll do it into the future as well, because it's not about us as the sellers or the knowledge experts. It's about those who want to serve, and they've got to recognize what we're doing and, have some sort of mental association with it. And the title and name of your signature solution, your system, or your product does that. Oh, and one other thing. I also recommend performing a simple A/B split test for your final 2 service or product names anytime you're considering how to name something in your business that's designed to attract interest or push your brand awareness. And for us introvert entrepreneurs, having things that help us talk about what we do is key, but we don't pay anywhere near enough attention to those things. And don't get this confused with not understanding what you do. I found the average introvert entrepreneur understands very clearly what they do, and they know how to do it very, very well. They know how to do what we refer to as the deep work, rolling up your sleeves and solving the problems. But it's all those other things, the collateral around it, our products, our services, our marketing, what we put on social media, what we put offline. Those are the areas where we don't tend to pay as much attention. Okay, and there are reasons behind that. So perform a simple A/B test for your final 2 service or product names, and just see how that works out. And again, the questions I gave you earlier is a good starting point, or are a good starting point for you. Now, if you have a team, also make sure that your team is on board. even if it's one VA, a graphic designer, or just a content person. What you want to find out is whether the team loves the name. If they don't love it, they won't support it the same way as if they did, okay? Ultimately, if your team members aren't happy with the title or name, you won't be either. So when you test the name or title of any product you create in support of your brand, you eliminate the guesswork and you greatly increase your chance for success in creating something, anything that's appealing, stands out, and is more likely to get the results you need without you having to do the things that make you uncomfortable, make you feel overwhelmed or frustrated. Now, I hope that's making sense. Now, I'm going to look at, before we proceed, I'm just going to look at the questions. I'm going to take some of the questions that we have. But remember, this is key to the first part of your business, reviewing the first part of your business, which is the pillars within your business. And remember, the three areas of your pillars are: one, you've got to understand what skills you're using out of all your skills, why you're using it, and how you've got to identify an important enough problem for your ideal target market. That is the first thing. That's your target market mastery. Then you've got to have a unique marketing message, which makes you believable without bragging. And then you've got to have this signature transformation system, how you take your clients or customers from point A to point B. And everything in this area has to be named appropriately. Okay, so now I'm going to take some of the questions before we move on.